Let's get started on that Mario and Luigi postcard. The first thing you need to do is open your folder. So go to your desktop, open up your folder, and you should have two files. Remember, one is a JPEG and the other one is a PSD file. And we want to open the PSD file because that's the one we resized and renamed. So go ahead and double click on it. Since it's a PSD file, it will open right up in Photoshop. And there it is. The first thing I'd like you to do today is just one more time check that size and make sure that you cropped and you have the correct size. Again, you go to Image, Image Size, and we have a width of 6, a height of 4, and also make sure you're in inches, and a resolution of 300. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be coloring this star in the background, and we're going to put a gradient on that. Before we get started on that, let's go ahead and rename this background layer. I'm going to just double click on that layer, and we want to call this line drawing. Now, this will be called our line drawing layer, but we don't want to do anything with this layer. So I'm going to go ahead and relock it by clicking on this lock. And that way I know that nothing will be altered on that layer. I'm going to go ahead and start a new layer, double click on that layer, and call it Star. And that's where we'll put the color for our star. Now, in order to put a gradient on this star, I need to select the star. And there are many selection tools in Photoshop, but the one that's going to work best for this today is going to be the magic wand. So if you come over to your tools panel, the fourth tool down is the quick selection tool, but if I click and hold that, that is also bundled with the magic wand tool, and that's the one I want to be on. So I'm going to click onto the magic wand tool. And while I'm on the magic wand tool, go up to the tool options panel and make sure that sample all layers is checked. That way you will not need to go back and forth between your layers. All right, with sampled all layers checked, I'm going to now just start selecting the star. So I'll start in the center, and all I need to do is click, and you'll notice I have my marching ants. Now, if I click out here, that part of the star is selected, but now the center part is deselected. So in order to select multiple areas of an object, you need to hold Shift. So I'm going to hold Shift and select that center area again. Now you'll see that both the center and this outside area of the star are both selected. All right, and I can continue by clicking around by holding Shift and selecting, holding Shift and selecting. And I really have to be careful visually with this thing. So you'll notice this spike comes out, and now this one is kind of behind his leg here, but right there, I'm going to use my zoom tool and zoom in on that. There is a part of the star right there. So back to magic wand, holding Shift. I need to get that area. All right, so just take your time with this. Make sure that you are not missing any areas. Okay, so that spike comes to there, then here's my next spike, and then we have this one, and it goes up, and then this is also part of the star. Then this little tiny tip, zoom in if you need to. Right here, there's a little spot between his fingers. Don't forget that. Right here. We have a tip here, and a tip here, tip there. Okay, now this little tip I'll probably need to zoom in, and I want to show you something. You need to be really careful. Let's say I'm clicking and I'm trying to get that spot, and I click outside of it a little bit. Do you see how the gray area is now selected? You need to be really, really careful with that because we don't want that gray area. That's the outline of the star, and we don't want to put a gradient over that. So I'm going to go back a step, zoom in, and make sure I'm getting the inside of the white area. To fit this back on page, the hotkey or shortcut is Command 0. I use Command 0 all the time to get myself fit back on page. It's a good one to know. All right, I missed one spot right here under Luigi's arm. I'm just going to look around carefully. This is going to take a little bit of time, so just be patient with this. It's better to make a good selection first than to have to go back and redo. But I think I've got it all. So the tricky spots are this one right here by his leg, under his arm, between his fingers here, and then this little spot underneath Mario's hand. Okay, so I think everything else looks good. Okay, so now that I have the entire star selected, we're going to do a gradient that's going to go from the foreground color to the background color. So before I start this, I want to set my foreground and background color. Okay, so I can pick any two colors I want. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on the foreground color, and I'm going to pick whatever color I want. So I'm going to get up into this pink purple range. I want to talk to you a little bit about gamut right now. You'll notice that this color I selected, it's showing it right here. So here's my current color, which is black, and this is my proposed new color. You'll notice I have a little warning here, and that is an out of gamut warning. And so what gamut is gamut is a range of colors that in this case are acceptable for print. Now the color that I've selected is fine for the computer monitor, for any kind of an electronic device that uses light. This color is just fine. But if I were to print this on a printer, this color is not possible because the printer doesn't use light to create its color. It uses ink. Now, if I click on this little warning symbol, it'll take me to the closest color that's in gamut for print. So I clicked on that, and you'll notice it takes me way out here, and that looks a lot different. So you've probably had this experience before where you had something on your computer screen and it looked amazing, and then you printed it on your printer and it didn't look as amazing as you saw it on your screen. And that's the reason why. So since we are designing this for print, I'm going to go ahead and keep my colors in gamut for print. That is optional for you. You do not have to do that. Keep in mind that you're also going to be displaying this on Artsonia, which will be seen on a monitor. And also keep in mind that your printer will do that automatically. So when I click this and it takes it into gamut, your printer will do that. So this is just for somebody who's designing something and they really need to see what it will look like in print so that they can see what it's going to look like for their client. They don't want to show their client something on a computer screen that's going to look completely different on print, because then their client will not be happy with that print. So whether you keep it out of gamut or put it into gamut is entirely up to you. I'm going to go ahead and just keep it in gamut. All right, I also want to choose a background color that's going to blend with that color. So I think I'll pick something in the blue range. Again, I'll pull that into gamut. Okay, so you'll notice I have a foreground and background color set here. The gradient tool is right here. Now, if you are seeing the paint bucket tool, then go ahead and just click and hold. Gradient tool is the default tool for that. Up on our tools option panel, I want you to go to this little icon, which will be a radial gradient. Okay, so it's the second one over. We want to do a radial gradient. I think that works best for the star. Keep everything else on default. And to do this, all you need to do is click from the center and drag out. Okay, and there's our gradient from the foreground color to the background color. Now, if you want to see this in the opposite direction, all you need to do is come back over to your foreground and background color, hit the little arrow to toggle it to the other direction, and do it again. Okay, and that's what it looks like in the opposite direction. I think I liked it the other way better though, so I'm going to switch it back and go back. You can also change your colors if you're not happy with how they're blending in the center here. Now notice from my pink to my blue, I'm getting a nice purple color, and I like that a lot. So I do like these two colors together. But if you're not happy with it, just don't change your selection. Keep your selection on, change them, and try it again. Now you will notice if you pull down this little window on the Tools option panel that you have all these different default gradients that Photoshop gives you. I do not want you to use any of those at this point. For this project, I'm requiring that you go from your chosen foreground color to your background color, which is the first window here. So if you did not open on default and you're on something crazy like this, just go ahead and click on that first window and it'll take you to your foreground and background color. Okay, the next thing you want to do is deselect. To do that, the hot or shortcut key is Command D. All right, if you can't remember that, under Select up here, you have the option to deselect. Now I also want to show you that if I turn my star layer off, turn the visibility off, that the color disappears and nothing has changed on my line drawing, and that's the way we want it to be. So there's my star and my line drawing. Now if you look at your star and you notice that it doesn't look exactly like this, you made some mistakes, you've colored some areas that shouldn't be colored, or you have some areas that aren't colored that should be, you'll need to fix that before moving on. That's it for today. Since we've already saved this into our folder, we do not need to do a save as. All we need to do is say File, Save, and it'll go back to our folder and it'll keep the name that we gave it. So File, Save. This screen will come up every time if you've opened on default. You can say Don't Show Again. We can close that. And now you can look in your folder. I can even see on my little preview icon that I have some color in there, but I can double click it and see that it's saved with my star. Let me know if you have any questions today. Go ahead and review your notes and take your quiz.